Solo and boutique law firms often wonder where to start with AI. Let's keep theory. Today I'm going to show you exactly how a Dutch employment law firm went from AI isn't ready to value-based pricing becoming a reality. All of that without risking malpractice. The secret? We started with the processes first, and not the technology. I'm Rok, founder of MPL Legal Tech Advisors. I've built AI in highly regulated sectors, and today we help legal teams adopt it safely, without risking malpractice or wasting money. We recently partnered with Horntier Legal, a Dutch boutique firm specializing in sensitive employment matters built on trust. Together, we mapped their daily work, separating legal judgment from repeatable office tasks. We aimed to reduce malpractice exposure, increase capacity, and standardize the processes. And with that, making a switch to the billable hourly model a realistic possibility. What we found was that the firm was signing up new clients regularly, every month, yet they were losing 1.5 hours per client, manually retyping the intake documentation, while having client data scattered over multiple personal devices and cloud storage solutions. So how do you help a practice drowning in manual work to switch to value-based pricing? Here's our proven methodology. The exact process we created working with dozens of firms, including Horntier Legal. Let's jump into it. Step 1 was mapping their day-to-day. We walked through everything from intake to billing. We flagged the time that was being lost and where the risk was hiding. Let's zoom in. So 3 big clusters of office work: client intake, manual billing, case management. Now, each box here represents something that a lawyer had to do manually. You can see how scattered those processes are. Manual case management operations were 4 big processes, each of them having multiple steps. And there were many friction points in each one of them. They were retyping documents, creating client profiles, chasing invoices, while not knowing where they stored the documents. And none of this was standardized. That's why each client looked a little bit different in their system. Now, once we mapped this clearly, we were able to separate the parts that required human review, legal judgment, the parts that we were able to have an overview of how much time each part takes. We were able to give some estimations on how much time they're actually losing and what does that translate in their billable hours. And then we were able to redesign the flow. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see how part of it looks now. And we mapped out also here some future opportunities early on. If we take a look at the system here, so all the contracts, payslips, all the client documentation ends up in a centralized storage system. So the extraction and the validation of the initial information for the intake system happens automatically. And there's a decision point. If anything looks off, the system will raise an exception for an attorney to review. And when an attorney does review, it again automatically ends up in our centralized storage. So they don't have to hunt through different folders, different laptops anymore. And if you want the same clarity on where to start and want results in 30 days, book a free AI risk and opportunity consultation with me. You'll find the link in the description. Having an overview like this helped us prioritize where to start because we knew where the risks were, where the bottlenecks were. We knew what were the biggest pain points, and we were also able to estimate based on technical feasibility and effort what the future opportunities should be. And we already mapped some of them early on in the process. They were all based on the foundation we designed with the first process. Now, the second step, and quite urgent, was to set up a data storage system. Once we knew where the risks were, we first secured the foundation. Client files moved off personal devices and an unprotected cloud into a firm-owned, secure business storage solution with a simple structure: matters, intake, evidence, notes, and drafts. We also added the access controls and configured the right permissions and the retention rules so nothing could go wrong. Now every file lands in the right spot, extraction flows run reliably, and anything unclear gets flagged for a quick check. And because the foundation is now standardized, we can also think of additional workflows such as engagement letters, automated billing, without having to redo anything. That way you get your data, your access, your controls. Your data is not locked in with any vendor and you have no new dashboards. With the foundation in place, we were then able to decide what to buy and what to build. This phase should not start with a wish list of AI tools. And because we understood the processes, pain points, and the goals of the firm, we were able to start with an informed knowledge of what to look for. So the rule of thumb is buy when you know what problem you have and you're searching for the solution for that problem. When you find something that lawyers are already using and is proven, and when the security and compliance are non-ambiguous. And build when your scope is small, you cannot find a solution on the market that exactly fits your needs. You've tried a few of those, you know exactly why they are not working for you, and a custom solution would be simpler inside of your setup. Now for Horntia Legal, that looked like this. So we bought a dedicated business account for secure file management. So we were able to move the data from personal and unprotected cloud storage. We added also a note-taking tool, and we configured it to drop the call summary straight into the Right Matter folder. So we weren't adding really any new dashboards and any new logins. So nothing additional to learn. And we moved to the build. We figured that the extraction part of the intake system was perfect for a simple automation. The problems we were solving were two. They were losing a lot of time doing this manually, plus it wasn't done in a standardized way. So it caused more problems and lost time in the future. And here a custom build was cheaper, faster, and much more reliable and tailored to how they already worked than a generic tool that they were able to get on the market. And it was implemented as a low-risk pilot within their workflow and inside their storage system. It was fully owned by the firm, and they had no dependence on outside vendors. And with this build, we also tackled the biggest identified time drain, which was 1.5 hours per client spent on manual extraction, while having a regular stream of new clients every month. So how does it work? For each client, the firm receives at least two documents, payslip and an employment contract. And they upload them manually into a secure internal form that cannot be accessed by anyone else. And why is the manual upload important here? So that's security by design. The foundation is already there. That's just another step. Now, what do we allow AI to extract here? So we don't allow it to do any legal analysis. It's only clean and standardized data. Now, safety is built in here. So we have deterministic checks that validate the salary and the date and other fields logic. AI only assists on fields like names, contract types. Whenever AI assists extracting a field, it always needs to also provide the source page or a part of the text where it extracted the information from. So it's easy to double check instantly. And if the contract and the payslip disagree on the salary amount, the payslip wins, like in the real world. So after the AI does its checks, we go and do our own checks. And that's all automatic within the system. And if anything is flagged in those checks, if anything is missing, if anything is unclear, if there's conflicting fields, our system triggers an exception card where it could be instantly checked and reviewed on the spot. The result of this is a standardized client overview, automatically pre-filled and saved into the correct folder that gets created on the fly and with every field traceable back to its source. So the bottom line here is this keeps lawyer in control, minimizes the risk, and increases the capacity. So we go from 1.5 hours of manually retyping into 15 seconds of doing it automatically. And if the exception card is raised, the reviews, as we're going to see later, took about 1.5 to 2.5 minutes. Now that we talked about how it works, how do we know it works good enough? Now, because this is a supervised, low-risk workflow and an internal one, not client-facing, we validate this with measured checks, and we don't rely on vibes or impressions. So now let me show you how we evaluated this before we moved on after What we tested was pilot set of recent matters, each with contract, payslips. We focused on critical fields that drive billing accuracy and predictability, salary, dates, party names, contract type. And our evaluation criteria was that salaries must normalize correctly after the currency conversion. The dates must be processed correctly. Start dates cannot exceed the end dates. And for the LLM or AI assisted fields like names, contract type, every field must display a page or a citation or a source of the text. And if there's no source, the system raises the exception card for the attorney to review. And also if the contract and the payslip salaries conflict, payslip wins. Now, what counts as correct is that the output matches the cited source, that it passes the validators, and that it's saved in the correct matter folder. Now, what counts as wrong? Anything missing, ambiguous, conflicting, out of range, that triggers the exception card, and the attorney needs to review. Now, for this risk level, those metrics were enough to be able to move past the pilot stage. So you see, this was not evaluated based on promises, it was evaluated based on metrics, data, measured results, transparent issues, and with having humans in control at the stage where it matters. And the best thing with having this process now set up is we can rerun this every time that the templates change, when the new document types appear, or when the exception rate starts to rise, as we also monitor that to be able to assure that the system is reliable. Now that we know that it works, how do we measure the adoption and how do we know that it's reliable over time? Because the win is not building AI, it's making sure that it's getting used daily. And we make it stick by putting it fully under firm's control. So we track the adoption every week. How many matters run through the loop, how many exceptions are raised, how long it takes to clear them. And the goal is a steady downward trend like we're seeing here. If the trend ever stalls or spikes, we fix the AI instructions or the system checks immediately. And that's how we can make sure that this becomes a part of the firm's operating rhythm and not just a one-time pilot. And here were some results of a scoped 30-day pilot. The first month, we're capturing 16 to 20 hours of capacity per person. And at 225 euros an hour, that's about 3.6 to 4.5 thousand monthly, or roughly 43 to 54,000 a year. The risk is down, the client data is moved off personal devices into a secure firm drive, the predictability is up, the exceptions get flagged, cleared faster every week, the findability is solved, every output lands in the right matter folder with the correct naming convention, and everything is standardized. And the ownership is not with the AI vendor, but within the firm. So there's no hidden dependencies. So the net result here is helping moving the firm into the direction of value-based pricing. If you remember, the goal for Horntier Legal was not to have AI. It was moving to value-based pricing. Automation and in some places AI were just the vehicles to get there. So here's where we like to think that we're different. Consultants hand you a roadmap, development agencies hand you a solution. But we like to stay. We sit with the partners, we try to form deep relationships to learn how they work, what is the mentality and the expectations of their clients, what are their peculiar professional obligations, so we can help them move quickly and in the right direction in the long run, not just in the next 3 months. And because we work with this approach, having a full overview of all the processes, all the pain points and the goals, we can now pull the lever of the biggest downstream impact, which for Horntier Legal is the engagement letter. It shows up with every client, it sets scope and fees, and it is the largest source of inconsistency, standardizing it in the firm's voice and pre-filling it from the data that we have already extracted in the intake process and already stored in a standardized way means that we can create a predictable first draft that we can then later on extend to alerts, analysis, automated billing. This cuts variance, increases predictability, and moves Horntier Legal even closer towards value-based pricing. But instead of just jumping into another automation, we're running a tailored workflow that delivers 4 outcomes at once. So this workshop will help us standardize the letter in the partner's voice, scope, fees, timelines, confidentiality clauses, sign-off for consistent outputs and easier supervision. It's going to enable us to train the partners on safe, practical AI use on this real document, what to automate, what stays human, and the review steps. Building competence without risks. It will produce a firm-owned template built from building blocks tied to the intake system, so the first drafts are created in seconds and not days later in a rush. And it will create the next automation block. So we have pre-filled engagement letters today and automated calendar and phone reminders tomorrow, which is again moving the firm one step closer to the value-based pricing. After this session, will measure 3 things: time to first draft, adoption of the template, and variance in core sections trending down. Now you can see we didn't stop with the pilot because our roadmap is designed to keep the firm confident, aligned, safe, and moving towards the value-based pricing, without overloading the team. At a high level, this means monthly strategy sessions to keep aligned with the firm's goals, quarterly audits to spot new risks and opportunities, and ongoing training and workshops, solving the pain points as they appear, so everyone is confident and compliant, and forming a relationship with partners. We have a direct line for any kind of urgent issue, so you have someone in your corner when it matters. Now, the specifics of the strategy stay between us and Horntier Legal, but the point here is, if you really want this to be successful, you should not treat it as a one-off pilot. Value-based pricing works when your inputs are predictable. At Horntier Legal, we captured 16 to 20 hours per month per person, we moved data off personal devices, and we kept everything firm-owned, without depending on vendors. If you want the same clarity on where to start with AI and want results in 30 days, grab a free Defensible Pilot Starter Kit below. But if you don't have time to spare, book a free AI risk and opportunity consultation with me. Link is in the description. What's your biggest bottleneck right now? Intake, drafting, follow-ups? Drop it in the comments below. I reply to every single one. And keep an eye on one of the next videos. I'll be talking to the managing partner of Horntier Legal about their experience with working with us. If me sharing this helped you get some clarity on how the process should look like, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.